Lifestream Services is your Aging and Disability Resource Center, providing a variety of programs to help you maintain independence. Lifestream, for the young at heart.
Cronin Toyota and Cronin Nissan are honored to partner with Proudly We Served, as well as the continued support of our local active and retired military veterans across eastern Indiana.
As your Aging and Disability Resource Center, Lifestream provides a variety of programs to help you or a loved one maintain independence, including in-home care management, transportation, nutrition and wellness services, caregiver support, volunteer opportunities, and more. Visit our website at lifestreaminc.org for more information about meal sites, upcoming wellness classes, resources for caregivers, and events in your area. Lifestream, for the young at heart.
I'm Al Bledsoe, Veterans of Foreign War, Post 1108.
I'm Ron Chappell, Vietnam Veterans Association, 777. And we're here today with our guest, Joe DeVito. Joe, what do you do? What's your title? It's so long. You got so many things.
I'll keep it short for you guys. I'm the Outreach Director for Indiana Department of Veterans Affairs.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so we're really glad you came today.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of information we need to get out there in the veteran community, and you're all over the place, not just in Wayne County. Mm-hmm. So we want to make sure people know that you do travel the other counties, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with that being said, let's get started with where are we at with the PACT Act? I think that's what I'm saying it right. What is it?
Question
all right.
And that's a better question.
So the PACT Act is an extension for a presumptive disorders type of claim for veterans. So to rewind a little history, veterans have the opportunity to file with the federal VA what's called a service-connected disability claim. Mm-hmm. Somewhat what it sounds like. It's where a veteran has a current disability, disease, or disorder, and it's up to them to show to the VA in that claim that the current issue that they have now was either caused by or made worse by their military service. Mm-hmm. Okay. Sometimes that's super easy. Mm-hmm. It could be a blatant injury from service. Maybe someone lost their pinky. Mm-hmm. Well, now that's in their records, and that's kind of an easy one to show. Sometimes it's more difficult to make that connection or nexus between the current condition and their military service, especially when there's a lot of years between the two. That's where we have a vast network of folks, advocates for veterans, who help them with those claims process. In Indiana, it's our county veteran service officers. We have one right here, a great one right here in Wayne County with Ron Whittick. Mm-hmm. There's one in every county, and it's your veterans in Indiana. It's your local expert on filing claims for state and federal benefits. Mm-hmm. To kind of walk you through that process, and sometimes you need those advocates between our county veteran service officers. IDVA employs 6 district service officers across the state who live in their district, and they support anywhere from 14 to 16 of those county veteran service offices with help on claims, help on working the computer systems, training staff, and different things that we can do to provide support for those service officers. So in the vein of those claims, once again, like we said, it's a condition that the veteran has now, and their claiming has to do with their military service, either caused by or made worse.
So if I got discharged 10 years ago, actually been longer than that.
We'll say 10.
We'll say 10. And I didn't have a problem then, at least no symptoms, whatever. But 10 years later, I started developing symptoms of a problem that could be associated with my military service, i.e. I was served in an area where there was Agent Orange or something like that.
Yep, and that's a great segue into what we're looking for those presumptives. So like I said, if sometimes it's a lot of work to make that connection. And with that, we have those advocates. But the VA also has what they call presumptive disorders. And that's where the VA presumes a condition that a veteran would have currently was caused by or made worse by their military service. Now, the way they can develop these presumptive disorders, this list of disorders, and make that presumption is based on exposure. So there's exposures from service. Agent Orange is the one most prevalent that most people hear of and know about. We've also heard a lot about Camp Lejeune. Veterans who served in Camp Lejeune and their family members between a very long period of time where there was some contaminated water on the base. So we have those. We also have our burn pits for our Afghanistan, Iraq veterans, our Gulf War veterans, and there's a few others out there. So what they look at is, we'll talk about Agent Orange as the most common one. Right now, there's a list of disorders. It's a pretty long list that are associated with exposure to Agent Orange. So if a veteran served boots on the ground in Vietnam or in the waterways of Vietnam within a certain distance, they have a calculation there. The VA will presume that veteran was exposed to Agent Orange.
Right.
So with that exposure, now we look at the list of disorders. Some of the ones on there are type 2 diabetes, ischemic heart disease, prostate cancer, lung cancer, those types of things. So if a veteran now, currently, no matter when the length of between service, is diagnosed with the condition that's on that list, the veteran's records show they were in an exposure area, the VA presumes service connection and the award is granted to that veteran. And so if we go forward now to the PACT Act, I'm not going to take a stab at the PACT, what the acronym stands for, off my head, but what it really did is expanded the exposures, those exposures, especially really opening up a lot of presumptive disorders for Gulf War veterans. And it also extended and strengthened some of the Vietnam veterans and other folks too. So it really is an extension of those presumptive disorders that are associated with service. So it's so important. We want everyone to know about the PACT Act.
Why did they do that? I guess that's a question I've always had. Why now would they come out with the PACT Act and cover? I know the burn pit guys, because I know a couple of Marines that were in Iraq when all that was going on. And I knew that was, but they come out with the presumptive of Vietnam.
We had burn pits in now.
Yeah, and one of those, personally, I was in all the hot spots of Vietnam. I was in every one of those for at least 6 months at a time. And recently, when they come out with a PACT Act, one of those symptoms, and I've always been diagnosed as close on some of those problems, I guess you would call it. So now they've come out with another presumptive, which fits my profile pretty right down the line. So we just see how all that works out.
Right.
But I think it's a good thing that the government's doing that. I think it's frankly about time they got their rear end in gear and decided to help some of these guys, especially the Iraq guys that you know as well as we know. It's very difficult for a guy. He won't reach out and tell you he's got an issue. He'll just live with that issue and think, well, they ain't going to do anything about it, and kick the can on down the road. So I think in your position, and I'm glad to see that you're very proactive with helping veterans and pushing them, almost pushing them into something. I know we've got a couple at the dealership, they're Marines. The one Marine, I finally got him signed up for health care and all that stuff a year ago. 14 months in Iraq, has some issues going on, and I said, man, you need to check that out. Because if anybody deserves something, he does. And I can see that some of those presumptives that maybe he's had that. The other guy, I don't know what's going on with that, but he just got qualified with his DD 214, and I don't know what's going on with that. But he had told me the other day they finally approved it, whatever that meant. So, and he's a Marine also.
That's a good question. What level of discharge or category of discharge would a person not be eligible for any of this?
So that is a great question. The discharge, character of discharge for a veteran, it kind of varies along the gamut for benefits. for VA healthcare, to enroll in VA healthcare, the veteran needs to have, for the most part, it's an honorable discharge.
Yeah.
Now, for service-connected disability claims, veterans' pensions, and a few others, it's anything but a dishonorable discharge. So if we look at the 5 discharge types, there's honorable, there's under honorable conditions, under less than honorable conditions, the bad conduct discharge, or the big chicken dinner, everybody calls it, and then the 5th is a dishonorable discharge. And we'll talk a little bit about those in a minute with some of our MFRF changes. But so for a service-connected disability, anything but a dishonorable. But there's nuance. For instance, a veteran who has a service-connected disability rating with the VA can enroll into a priority group with the VA healthcare. So a person with not an honorable, maybe under honorable conditions, but then is awarded service-connected disability can receive health care for those disabilities through the VA, even though that original discharge may not be the honorable. So these are the nuances why it's so important to see your county veteran service officer. We try to tell every veteran that we can, consider it like your doctor. Get to know your CVSO and see them once a year. Because things like the PAC Act, and it's always changing, it's always moving. And Al, you had asked earlier how they come up with this or why they do it. Wish it could be a lot faster, but a lot of it has to do with claims to the VA, and statistically, are veterans with exposures more susceptible than the general public in the same age ranges and groups to certain diseases. One of the ways that they determine what's going to be on the lists for any of these exposures is with registries. So they have a burn pit registry with the VA. There's a Vietnam Agent Orange registry. There's even a Camp Lejeune registry. So we encourage you, and what you're doing is great. Tell all veterans, go to VA healthcare, enroll, and go into the registry. It's going to be a bunch of questions and a little bit of diagnostic exams. But what they need to know is the more Gulf War veterans that come into the registry, the more they'll start to see, certain issues or conditions more prevalent. And then that's how they can do more research, look at it as far as the exposures go, and maybe add to that list or create those lists. So that's important. And really, one of the things we partner with our partners at the federal VA. Every day we talk with our veteran benefits folks and our veterans healthcare folks. And we're doing more and more in the future to just partner on everything that we do, because it's all good info and good for our veterans. But we want veterans to enroll in VA healthcare. Even if you have VA health, if you have outside healthcare, you like your healthcare, that's fine, but enroll in VA healthcare anyway. You can keep your doctor. You might get way cheaper prescriptions at a VA, which is a bonus. But you'll be in those registries, you'll be in the system, and if and when you need VA healthcare, it'll be there and ready to go. So,
well, I think they've been, and maybe it's just because of my own personal circumstance, but it seems to me that the VA has, especially Dayton, has been very proactive here lately about if you go see somebody follows it up with a phone call. Or, I think last week I got a phone call from a guy, and he said, I want to talk to you about your Vietnam experience. And I said, well, okay, we can talk about that, but not now. So I told him I'd call him back later. But it's little things like that I think entices the veteran, because maybe for once, the VA really cares. And maybe that's coming down from the top. Maybe they're getting the signals that from the top that we need to care a little bit more. The only way you can tell if a person cares is if they help you, or and with me, they've just been off the chart. But I only hope that they give that kind of attention to every veteran.
Well, I'm sitting here now thinking, Agent Orange, there at On-K, when they sprayed the area, I'm sure I ingested some of it, and I got the appropriate receiving the treatment for that from VA. But I never thought about the burn pit. And the burn pit was an assigned duty for wherever, everybody really, for the most part. And you know what they burned in the burn pit, right?
Yeah, sure.
Everything.
Okay. Okay.
Anything that can burn.
Yeah.
We just leave it
and
there.
they used JP4. They used JP4 in a big barrel, and they'd have a couple boards up there, and that was our restroom within the perimeter. Unless you wanted to go outside the perimeter, and you just didn't want to do that on your own. But so you in that JP4, you got human feces, you got everything else, and you're stirring it. You got to stir it up and let it. Yeah. Anyway, yeah.
Truly a hot mess.
Yeah, hot mess.
Yes.
You're right. Yeah.
With the guys in Iraq, for some reason, the guys in Iraq are more susceptible to the burn pits than the Vietnam guys, because only, I won't say recently, have I heard the burn pits mentioned in Nam. When you and I both know that all that was going on.
Yeah.
But it wasn't really mentioned. But when the Iraq guys came in, all of a sudden, okay, burn pits is a big problem. You can't breathe all that stuff.
Yeah, and it's a lot of respiratory issues.
Oh, yeah, sure.
With that as well, and combined with the environment, the sand environment as well over there. But it's the point, really. We want to make sure veterans go see your county veteran service officer and get enrolled in VA healthcare and check out what's going on. One thing I think is a great idea for any veteran to do, or family member of a veteran, encourage your veterans or your friend, if your friend's a veteran. Find out when you served and where you served, because with these presumptive disorders, like we said, the VA is going to presume this was maybe caused by your service or could have been, so that means there's a link. So just like, I like to consider a presumptive disorder for a veteran the same as a family history of a medical condition. You may be a little bit more susceptible to something. And we all know, medically, the sooner you find something, the earlier the better, right?
Exactly. Right.
So if you have a potential exposure and you don't know, see your county service officer, but let's say you served somewhere and there is this list of disorders because of exposure you may have had, grab that list and go to your doctor, whether it's VA or other doctor, bring it with them and say, hey, I served in an area. Here's a list of things that correspond with my service. Can we start looking for these? Let's pre-screen, let's take a look. Finding it early is the best thing for your health.
Exactly.
And that could also then help you bring back that information, a diagnosis you didn't know you had, even if it's super mild. Maybe you bring that back to your county service officer, file that claim, get that free VA health care, get the compensation you deserve for your claim.
Yeah. And if you may not have been in that immediate area where they were spraying, but if you're downwind, and because you could smell it, but you could see it a distance away. And man.
Yeah, and we want veterans to file these claims. The federal VA has a very, I think I read somewhere recently, the VA in the United States are Veterans Administration, which is Veterans Healthcare, VHA, Veterans Benefit Administration, VBA, and Veterans Cemetery Administration. Those are the three branches of the VA. But the VA in general is, I think I'd read, it's the largest government organization in the world.
Wow.
So sometimes it takes a minute. Sometimes there's a little paperwork nuance. That's where your service officer can help a ton.
It's amazing to me how they can track that stuff, and they seem to know more than maybe what in my case, they seem to know more than what I thought they knew. I mean, but it's just tracking it, the way they do it. And again, I'm going to say, I think that the VA, for the most part, has really come on the last year. I've just had a terrible sense that they're doing a better job, but you're always going to hear those downsides of everything. But boy, for the most part, it's real positive.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, if you pin it down, if a guy's got a problem, and you pin him down a little bit on it and say, well, okay, exactly what are you talking about? Or then they don't want to maybe answer that question. So sometimes it's our fault for not being proactive. Now, at my age, I feel like I have to be very proactive in my health. If I got a fingernail that hurts, I want it looked at. You know what? And that's almost being nervous.
I can't identify with that. So
Yeah, I know. Well, he's a little bit older than I am. He looks like it. No. So anyway, maybe the older you get more proactive in your health because, I went for years that I didn't want to talk to a doctor. And then it's just good to be proactive in your health. You can't say enough about that.
Yeah.
No, and a goal is to get everybody to realize you don't need to be older to be more proactive.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to be proactive with their
Exactly.
health. And the VA has done some really great things in all branches of the VA.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a quick story. I'm not going to butcher his name, but the new head of VA healthcare, I believe it's the undersecretary.
Yeah.
So he's newly appointed within a year, or close to a year or so ago. He's the person in charge of VA healthcare, the number one.
Okay.
We were at a conference. Unfortunately, I had to go to Hawaii for a conference.
Oh, gee.
Oh, wow.
And the new head of the VA healthcare was going to be speaking that afternoon.
Yeah.
So it was kind of exciting to hear the new person.
Sure.
And I noticed early in the morning, 7:30 in the morning, that that person had sent somebody to the conference ahead to be there and take notes. And I saw this young gentleman taking notes, and he was there the entire day and took notes the entire day. And I thought that was impressive.
Yeah.
Usually they just sweep in with some security, have some great things to say, and which is understandable.
Yeah.
So fast forward to the end of the day. It was 4 o'clock or so. We were supposed to get the speech. The person at the podium introduces, and it was this person who was there all day. That was the new undersecretary of VA healthcare. He was there all day long.
Taking notes.
He took
Wow.
notes all day, and he got up, and I could tell if he had a prepared speech, it went in the trash can, and he spoke to what he heard all day. And this was a conference of the National Association of State Veteran Affairs Directors. So every state has a VA.
Yeah.
We have Indiana Department of Veteran Affairs, Dennis
That'd be
Weimer's our
exciting.
director. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be.
And it was so great refreshing to hear that. And he looked like, I thought he was about 18, but I think he's in his mid-30s. But a super sharp person. And so, it's so refreshing and great to see that these are the people that are taking over in charge, and I anticipate some great
Attention
things.
to detail.
Yes.
We had a doctor at, I won't say who it was, he recently moved on to another clinic or something, but he was probably the best if you call that guy, within 10 minutes he'd call you. And it's just, he always, no matter what was going on in the world, it just seemed like he always focused on what you were doing. He always acted like he genuinely cared about what your health was like. And that's, I won't say it's unusual, but I guess I've just noticed it more.
That's great.
And maybe because I've had to go more here in the last year than I've ever had to go. So, and they've really done good, and I tell everybody with all the issues that you hear about stuff, some of those issues are self-imposed, and we need to look in the mirror sometimes and think maybe I should have done something a little different.
Right.
Yeah.
But we don't do that. We're always fast to be critical, especially of the VA. They're kind of everybody's block they want to use.
Yeah.
And so I think that it should be said that the VA does do a good job. If we hear of something, like if I hear something that's negative, I'm going to question that person a little bit of why do you feel that way and what's going on with all that. So. And that's where you come in, I think, because of
Absolutely.
the position you've got.
Yep.
You've got the clout, if you will, to get something done.
Yeah. I retired in '87 with 24 years
Wow.
service.
How old are you?
with 24 years service. And
service, okay, sorry.
But I
Got that confused.
but I never connected with the VA. I didn't connect with VA until after I got here in '95. And I can't remember what it was that caused me to go to Dayton. And I was going to Wright-Patterson. and I found out that the VA hospital was en route. So I decided to stop by there. And when I stopped by there, that's when they were telling me about, how I could sign up and get seen by VA doctors. And then they built the CBOC here, and I started going there. And actually, I've got no complaints. I mean, VA has done me just awesome.
Yeah.
Really. And diagnosis, treatment, all of that, And,
Well, I think for the most part, and I think that if we're realists, what I just said is a lot of that's self-imposed. We need to take a look at where we're at with it and put that fire out if.
And you get paid for going to the doctor. Your mileage.
You can get mileage. That's right. That is correct. And
I
I
got to
think,
remember that every chuckle.
We got
for
about 2 minutes.
mileage.
well, and I think it's important to just communicate with them too. The VA wants to know where they can do better.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, well, Joe, so glad that you could be with us, and he's going to be back with us, I think, in,
Just 5 minutes.
but there'll be another program.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's coming back to visit with us and share some more information, okay?
Excited.
All right.
So with that, we're going to sign
we're going
off
to say
and
bye, and we'll see you a little
see
bit
you in a
later.
little bit.
Yeah.
As your Aging and Disability Resource Center, LifeStream provides a variety of programs to help you or a loved one maintain independence, including in-home care management, transportation, nutrition and wellness services, caregiver support, volunteer opportunities, and more. Visit our website at lifestreaminc.org for more information about meal sites, upcoming wellness classes, resources for caregivers, and events in your area. LifeStream, for the young at heart.
Cronin Toyota and Cronin Nissan are honored to partner with Proudly We Served, as well as the continued support of our local active and retired military veterans across eastern Indiana.